Listen, I'm going to be straight with you right out of the gate. If what we're about to dive into is true, the entire traditional concept of the devil, it completely collapses. Period. What we're doing in this explainer is a deep historical investigation into the very origins of ultimate evil. And honestly, it's probably going to shatter some of your preconceived notions. Because in the absolute earliest texts, this figure we now call Belial, well, he wasn't a primeval demon. He wasn't some fallen angel. Actually, he wasn't an entity at all. We're going to act as historical detectives today, tracking exactly how a simple, everyday word mutated, layer by layer, century by century, into a towering mythological beast. So, get ready, because this isn't just a history lesson, it is the anatomy of a myth. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. If you go way back to the original Hebrew scriptures, the word Belial does not show up as a proper noun. It's not a character. It's literally just an adjective, a label. It translates roughly to worthlessness, lawlessness, or deep moral decay. Think of it more like a state of being, rather than some horned creature lurking in the shadows. When an ancient text associated someone with Belial, it wasn't claiming they were possessed by a demon. It was just a harsh societal judgment. It was a purely human word used to describe purely human failings. At this point in time, there was absolutely no grand cosmic war going on. So the big question is, how does a simple adjective used for a corrupt neighbor around 800 BCE transform into a fully ranked demonic general by the 1500s? Well, it wasn't like someone suddenly discovered a hidden monster. Over the centuries, massive cultural fractures, forced migrations, and evolving theological needs pushed this concept through a giant ontological shift. As we track this timeline, you see that each era basically slaps a new layer of paint onto the canvas, completely rewriting what Belial meant so it would fit their own specific worldview. Now, you'll frequently find the phrase "sons of Belial" popping up in early religious texts. And to a modern reader, that sounds terrifying, right? Like some dark, underground demonic cult. But historical analysis reveals something entirely human. Calling someone a son of Belial was basically just a rhetorical tool to label societal outcasts, the lawless, the corrupt. It drew a firm boundary of social exclusion. If you crossed the line of moral decency, you were tossed outside the circle and branded a son of Belial. It was a very grounded human categorization, completely devoid of any mythological or supernatural elements. To put it in an academic perspective, early humanity viewed evil strictly as an abstract concept. It was a semantic field of human failure, not a personal entity. And we need to lock that in, because this is our baseline. This is exactly where the story starts. Back then, there was no boogeyman to blame your sins on. If you were corrupt, well, that was entirely on you. But human language and human culture, they're rarely static. As ancient societies faced massive, traumatic upheavals, a simple label of worthlessness just wasn't enough to explain all the terrifying suffering in the world. And that brings us to the Second Temple period, where we see an earth-shattering shift. The world is no longer viewed as just a messy mix of good and bad people. It completely fractures into a strict, uncompromising dualism. On one side, you have the sons of light, on the other, the sons of darkness. And in this new, high-contrast cosmic architecture, Belial gets a massive promotion. He's no longer just an adjective. He is now the literal spirit of darkness. He's been upgraded to a designated leader. And this belief was so absolute, so ingrained, that archaeological digs show these communities literally buried their dead flat on their backs, facing the sun, physically turning their bodies away from Belial's dark domain. But hold on, because here is the most incredible twist in this historical detective story. In these ancient scrolls, Belial is the commander of darkness, sure, but he is not an independent rebel. He is a created, designated, and heavily controlled function of God's system. He's an intentional counterweight, specifically designed to balance the light. It's like a giant cosmic machine, and Belial is just a gear turning exactly where it's supposed to. He's an actor playing a heavily scripted role within a vast cosmic mechanism. Which forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. If evil is a designed mechanism within the system, where exactly does human free will reside? I mean, think about it. If Belial is simply a functional gear in the universe, doing exactly what he was programmed to do, the lines between human choice and cosmic destiny become incredibly blurred. Ancient minds started believing that humans were constantly under the gravitational pull of these two distinct spirits. Your moral compass wasn't entirely your own anymore. It was permanently tied to this massive turning wheel of universal duality. And you know what this means? It completely shatters the Hollywood version of the devil, the whole illusion of the fallen demon. In these defining texts, Belial never rebelled against the creator. There is zero mention of some epic, tragic fall from grace because he challenged authority. That classic rebel Satan narrative, it is entirely absent here. Evil is operating within very strict, pre-assigned boundaries. Belial isn't an enemy of the system, he's a required component of it. The darkness literally exists simply so the light can be comprehended. So let's move the timeline forward again. As apocalyptic thought bleeds into early Christianity, things shift drastically once more. In the New Testament, specifically if you look at Paul's second epistle to the Corinthians, Belial's role evolves for an even larger stage. He is now positioned as the direct theological opposite of Christ. The duality is no longer just generic light and dark. It is specifically Christ and Belial. He has become the ultimate cosmic antagonist. That simple Hebrew word that once just meant worthless is now carrying the immense, crushing weight of universal evil. And this brings us to the final, fascinating stage of the fabrication. As we enter the Middle Ages, the original linguistic history is completely forgotten, wiped clean. Medieval grimoires take these ancient, nuanced allegorical concepts and brutally translate them into literal, breathing beasts. You have scholars systematically assigning Belial military ranks, detailing his specific legions, and giving him royal titles. The transformation is officially complete. We've gone from an ancient Hebrew adjective for a bad neighbor to a fully armed, ranked demonic general. It is absolutely crucial to realize this. Belial was not discovered. He was constructed. Layer by layer, translation by translation, just to bear the weight of our own sins. We didn't unearth a terrifying demon lurking beneath the desert sands. We built him. As societies changed, as languages morphed, Belial was drafted into existence. The physical embodiment of evil that people fear today is essentially an architectural fiction, built upon a foundation of ancient mistranslations and evolving cultural anxieties. So, why did we do it? Why create this monster? Well, psychologically speaking, accepting our own inherent human darkness, our greed, our cruelty, our selfishness, is a crushing burden. It is so much easier to project our immorality onto an external entity. The idea that the devil made me do it instantly absolves us of personal guilt, right? By creating a physical enemy, we turned abstract societal taboos into an adversary we could theoretically fight, banish, and blame. Belial just became humanity's ultimate cosmic scapegoat. We didn't find the ultimate evil hiding in the shadows. We literally wrote him into existence so we could hide from ourselves. The entire historical evolution we've traced in this explainer, from a simple label for moral decay to a terrifying general of darkness, is really just a mirror, and it's reflecting humanity's desperate need to externalize its own flaws. The story of Belial isn't the history of a demon at all. It's the history of an idea. It's the history of the incredible lengths we will go to just to avoid looking inward. Which leaves us with one final, lingering thought to chew on. If we actively built the devil over thousands of years simply to escape our own reflection, what else are we refusing to see? What other external enemies have we fabricated to avoid taking responsibility for the systems we've created?